The sleeping car. A sleeper is a railway passenger car that can accommodate all its passengers in beds of one kind or another, primarily for the purpose of making nighttime travel more restful. The first such cars saw sporadic use on American railroads in the 1830s. They could be configured for coach seating during the day. Some of the more luxurious types have private rooms. History. The Cumberland Valley Railroad pioneered sleeping car service in the spring of 1839, with a car named Chambersburg, between Chambersburg and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. A couple of years later, a second car, the Carlisle, was introduced into service. In 1857, the Ways and Manufacturing Company of Springfield, Massachusetts, one of the United States' first makers of railway passenger coach equipment, produced America's first specifically designed sleeping car. The man who ultimately made the sleeping car business profitable in the United States was George Pullman, who began by building a luxurious sleeping car in 1865. The Pullman Company, founded as the Pullman Palace Car Company in 1867, owned and operated most sleeping cars in the United States until the mid-20th century, attaching them to passenger trains run by the various railroads. There were also some sleeping cars that were operated by Pullman but owned by the railroad running a given train. During the peak years of American passenger railroading, several all-Pullman trains existed, including the 20th Century Limited on the New York Central Railroad, the Broadway Limited on the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Panama Limited on the Illinois Central Railroad, and the Super Chief on the Atchison, Topeka and Santa Fe Railway. Pullman cars were normally a dark Pullman green, although some were painted in the host railroad's colors. The cars carried individual names but usually did not carry visible numbers. In the 1920s, the Pullman Company went through a series of restructuring steps, which in the end resulted in a parent company, Pullman Incorporated, controlling the Pullman Company and the Pullman Standard Car Manufacturing Company. Due to an antitrust verdict in 1947, a consortium of railroads bought the Pullman Company from Pullman Incorporated, and subsequently railroads owned and operated Pullman-made sleeping cars themselves. Pullman Standard continued manufacturing sleeping cars and other passenger and freight railroad cars until 1980. Cultural impact of Pullman porters. One unanticipated consequence of the rise of Pullman cars in the U.S. in the 19th and early 20th centuries was their effect on civil rights and African American culture. Each Pullman car was staffed by a uniformed porter. The majority of Pullman porters were African Americans. While still a menial job in many respects, Pullman offered better pay and security than most jobs open to African Americans at the time, in addition to a chance for travel, and it was a well-regarded job in the African American community of the time. The Pullman attendants, regardless of their true name, were traditionally referred to as George by the travelers, the name of the company's founder, George Pullman. The Pullman Company was the largest employer of African Americans in the United States. Subsequently, railway porters fought for political recognition and were eventually unionized. The union, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, became an important source of strength for the burgeoning civil rights movement in the early 20th century, notably under the leadership of A. Philip Randolph. Because they moved about the country, Pullman porters also became an important means of communication for news and cultural information of all kinds. The African American newspaper, the Chicago Defender, gained a national circulation in this way. Porters also used to resell phonograph records bought in the great metropolitan centers, greatly adding to the distribution of jazz and blues and the popularity of the artists. Open section accommodation. accommodation from the 19th to the mid-20th century. The most common type of sleeping car accommodation on North American trains was the open section. Open section accommodations consist of pairs of seats, one seat facing forward and the other backward, situated on either side of a center aisle. The seat pairs can be converted into the combination of an upper and a lower berth, each berth consisting of a bed screened from the aisle by a curtain. A famous example of open sections can be seen in the movie Some Like It Hot. As the 20th century progressed, an increasing variety of private rooms was offered. Most of these rooms provided significantly more space than open section accommodations could offer. Some of them, such as the rooms of the misleadingly named slumber coach cars manufactured by the Pullman Company and first put into service in 1956, were triumphs of miniaturization. Night trains today. Sleeper cars are still popular in the Indian subcontinent, where trains are the major mode of transport, although reduced in prevalence in recent decades in the Western world. Sleeping cars retain a powerful ability to provide travel that is both reasonably comfortable and potentially time-saving, especially between points that are between 800 kilometers and 1,600 kilometers apart. Distances one can travel overnight, perhaps with dinner at the beginning of the journey and breakfast at the end. This offers efficiency in passing the time and distance by allowing travelers to do things that might be done in a hotel room during the same hours. The obvious advantage over day trains is that the ride takes up less daytime. A sleeping car is, in essence, a moving house of lodging. A night in transit can replace a hotel stay at the destination, even where sleepers are more expensive than high-speed day trains or other modes of transport. The extra cost may be less than that of a night at a hotel. Despite its recent overall decline in popularity, the overnight train still offers an enjoyable means of transportation for many. Many overnight trains arrive at the destination cities in the morning, which advantage is especially pronounced in major cities of China, where hard sleeper prices are very competitive, or in Russia and the Ukraine, where sleeper prices are reasonable and the train compartments can be quite comfortable. An interesting practice in sleeping car operation, one that is not currently employed in North America, is the use of set-out sleepers. Sleeping cars are picked up and or dropped off at intermediate cities along a train's route so that what would otherwise be partial night journeys can become full night journeys, with passengers allowed to occupy the sleeping accommodations from mid-evening to at least the early morning. Common practice on such occasions is to close the passages between sleeper cars from the night to prevent accidental wrong destinations. Asia. China's railways operate an extensive network of sleeper trains throughout the country, covering all provincial capitals and many major cities. With track upgrades, service speeds have increased since the 21st of December 2008. A high-speed CRH-2E sleeper train service even runs between Beijing and Shanghai. Upper and lower berths have different prices. In 2008, the difference was between 730 yuan for the lower berth and 655 for the upper berth. The Chinese hard sleeping car in use today is very basic, consisting of fixed bunk beds, which can be converted into seats in peak season, especially during Chinese New Year. The middle-level bunk bed will be folded and top-level bunk bed will still be sold as sleeper, while the lower bed will be occupied by 3 passengers. Chinese trains also offer soft or deluxe sleeping cars with 4 or 2 beds per room. India. A major portion of passenger cars in India are sleeper, couchette cars, with railways as the primary mode of passenger transport. Sleeper cars vary from economical to first-class AC. Most Indian trains come in combinations of first-class AC and non-AC private sleeper cars with doors, and AC and non-AC three-tier or two-tier couchette arrangements. Japan once had many sleeping car trains, but most have been abolished because of the development of air and high-speed rail. As of May 2016, sleeper car trains of regular service in Japan are as follows: Sunrise Izumo, Tokyo, Izumoshi. Sunrise Setus, Tokyo, Takamatsu, Malaysia. Kereta Api Tanah Melayu. The Malaysian National Railway Company offers sleeping car service on several of its long-distance trips. Sometimes the same trip can be made either during the day in a normal carriage or at night on a sleeper. The Kuala Lumpur to Hatyai train has sleeping cars, since the journey takes 14 hours. Australia. Overnight trains in Australia, which usually run between state capital cities, have changed over the last 20 years or so, probably as the result of competition by cheaper airfares between those same cities. They have mostly either been replaced by day trains, sometimes medium-speed day trains, or else they have remained, but been refurbished with the intention of attracting tourists for whom the train trip is itself an attraction, instead of being a functional means of transport. In these cases, the facilities provided are often upgraded, so that the train becomes almost like a hotel in some ways, and the fares in such cases can be very expensive. This has happened at approximately the same time as management of the trains has been transferred from government railways to private companies. Relatively inexpensive sleeper services have been retained between Melbourne and Sydney, Sydney and Brisbane and Charleville, Cairns and Longreach. Other countries in Asia: Turkey, Russia, Iran, Pakistan, Thailand. Europe. In Europe, the Compagnie Internationale des Wagons Lits first focused on sleeping cars but later operated whole trains, including the Simplon Orient Express, Nord Express, Train Blue, Golden Arrow, and the Trans-Siberian. Today it once again specializes in sleeping cars, along with on-board railroad catering. In modern Europe, a substantial number of sleeping car services continue to operate, though they face strong competition from high-speed day trains and budget airlines. In some cases, trains are split and recombined in the dead of night, making it possible to offer several connections with a relatively small number of trains. Generally, the trains consist of sleeping cars with private compartments, couchette cars, and sometimes cars with normal seating. An example of a more basic type of sleeping car is the European couchette car, which is divided into compartments for 4 or 6 people, with bench configuration seating during the day and privacyless double or triple level bunk beds at night. Germany. Deutsche Bahn's modern city nightline services serve the majority of countries in Western and Central Europe, including Germany, the Netherlands, Austria, Denmark, Italy, and the Czech Republic. The services usually leave at around 2000 hours and arrive at around 9 o'clock hours at the destination, Italy. In Italy, Ferrovie dello Stato operates an extensive network of trains with sleeping cars, especially between the main cities in northern Italy and the south, including Sicily, using train ferry. Spain. In Spain, Tren Hotel is a long-distance, high-quality overnight train service which uses Talgo tilting trains technology and sleeping cars developed by the Spanish rail network operator, Renfe. It is operated by Renfe when it operates within Spain and Portugal, and by its subsidiary Ellipsos when operating in France, Switzerland and Italy. The Estrella is a low-cost night train between Madrid and Barcelona served by berth carriages, with compartments for up to 6 persons. CIS countries. In Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, the national rail services operate a large number of night trains with private compartments containing seats convertible into sleeping berths. These night trains are a prime method of travel, with ticket prices quite reasonable by Western standards, and with the distances between the capitals of Moscow and Kiev and many outlying cities being ideal for overnight trips that depart in late evening, and arrive at their destinations in the morning. Sleeping cars are the only reasonable solution for railway trips lasting several days. United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, a network of trains with sleeping cars operates daily between London and Scotland, and between London and the West Country as far as Cornwall. Using rolling stock designed and formerly operated by British Rail, these services offer a choice of single or double occupancy bedrooms. These services operate all week, except Saturdays, and usually depart London in the evening, arriving at the destinations at approx 8 o'clock. France. Another of the more substantial examples of current European sleeping car service is the Train Blue, an all-sleeping car train. The train leaves Paris from the Gare d'Austerlitz in mid-evening and arrives in Nice about 8 in the morning, providing both first-class rooms and couchette accommodations. The train's principal popularity is with older travelers. It has not won the same degree of popularity with younger travelers. Recently, the upper-class coaches have been sold to foreign railroad companies, so that only couchette cars as well as seating coaches remain. The Train Blue is part of the French night service network called Intercité de Nuit. Poland. Sleeping trains in Poland are run by Intercity Company. Other countries in Europe with sleeping car services: Norway, Sweden, Finland, Serbia, Austria, Romania, Bulgaria. North America, Canada. In Canada, all regularly scheduled sleeping car services are operated by Via Rail, using a mixture of relatively new cars and refurbished mid-century ones. The latter cars include both private rooms and open section accommodations. USA. In the United States, all regularly scheduled sleeping car services are operated by Amtrak. Amtrak offers sleeping cars on most of its overnight trains, using modern cars of the private room type exclusively. Today, Amtrak operates two main types of sleeping car: the bi-level superliner sleeping cars built from the late 1970s to the mid-1990s, and the single-level viewliner sleeping cars, built in the mid-1990s. In the most common superliner sleeping car configuration, the upper level is divided into two halves, one half containing bedrooms for 1, 2, or 3 travelers, each bedroom containing an enclosed toilet and shower facility, and the other half containing roomettes for 1 or 2 travelers plus a beverage area and a toilet. The lower level contains more roomettes, a family bedroom for as many as 2 adults and 2 children, and an accessible bedroom for a wheelchair-using traveler and a companion, plus toilets and a shower. The viewliner cars contain an accessible bedroom for a wheelchair-using traveler and a companion, with an enclosed toilet and shower facility, 2 bedrooms for 1, 2, or 3 travelers, each bedroom containing an enclosed toilet and shower facility, roomettes for 1 or 2 travelers, each roomette containing its own unenclosed toilet and washing facilities, and a shower room at the end of the car. South America. Countries in South America having trains with sleeper cars: Argentina. Africa. Countries in Africa having trains with sleeper cars: Egypt, Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Democratic Republic of Congo, Congo, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria,